welcome back to another episode on your property upgrading journey. My name is Caline and today we're going to cover these few topics, especially if you're asking why should I upgrade from my HDB to a condominium, or should I even be upgrading? Maybe because perhaps right now you're already very comfortable with your current plans, you do not have any intentions of upgrading. Now of course, secondly, you might be then wondering, can private property really make you more money than your current HDB, since it's so much more expensive than your HDB in terms of pricing, and definitely your monthly installment will also be on the higher end versus owning a HDB. So it will then make sense for you as a homeowner to move into a private property instead. Thirdly, let's say you are already convinced that you do want to kickstart your entire property upgrading journey, then perhaps the main question will then be, when should you then kickstart your property upgrading journey? When's the best time to sell and buy? And of course, I think the most common question will be then, what should I buy as my next home if I'm looking for capital appreciation as well as own stay in terms of your property upgrading journey? And for today's episode, we will want to deep dive into whether you should continue to keep on to your HDB, or does it then make sense for you to upgrade to a private property? So fundamentally, why do HDB homeowners love to upgrade to a private property? I think there are three very key answers to that. First one, of course, is for the lifestyle change. You get to enjoy more children-friendly facilities, especially you have young kids at home. You know, you have the pool, the tennis court, the clubhouse. You also get to enjoy the condominium security services, and of course, in terms of status. And secondly, people want to pass on perhaps their private properties to their next generation. So this is also really meant for legacy planning, especially for homeowners who do have plans to sort of pass down their private property to the next generation. And the third reason is, of course, one of the key fundamentals as to why people love to upgrade is definitely for wealth accumulation as well. Today, we want to talk a lot more about how is upgrading to a condominium going to benefit you and it's going to allow you to enjoy that wealth accumulation that we are talking about. So let's just take a look at a very typical Singaporean route. So let's say today a young couple gets married, maybe at the age of 28 years old. They go ahead to apply for their BTO 3-4 years later, so they will be about 32 years old by then. So that's when they also get to collect their keys. They move in for the next 5 years to fulfill their MOP. So by then they'll be about 37 years old. Of course, then comes in like the family planning, your career building for the next 20-30 years. And typically for a Singaporean, the retirement age is about 62 to 65. So usually by 65 years old, you should not be holding on to any more property loans. That also means that by then for sure you would have fully paid off your property. Generally, there are three main different routes that someone can choose from with the same starting point, means to say that they all go for the BTO right from the start. So the very first route is also what we term as the passive or the more conservative model, is whereby you keep your HDB all the way, you do nothing to restructure your entire property portfolio. For example, right now you buy in a 4-room HDB, about 450k directly from HDB itself, so a BTO, and then maybe by the time it hits MOP, it appreciates to about 600k, and then you stay all the way. Maybe once you have hit your retirement age, then you do not need such a big space anymore. You plan to downgrade to maybe a 2 or 3-room flat that's worth about 350k. That also means that you're going to cash out about 250k for your retirement plans. This is really just a very simplified illustration, just for everyone to have a very quick understanding together. So the second route is also what we term as the protection of capital model. So this means that once you hit your MOP, you choose to sell off your HDB instead, cash out whatever equity you can extract, as generally by then your HDB will have appreciated. Let's say you earn about 150 to 250k cash proceeds that's coming out from your HDB itself. You can then use those profit gains to reinvest into a private property, and let's say you go for a 3-bedder condo, about 1.5 million, and you keep that condo all the way until you retire as well. So by age 65, definitely you will have fully paid off your condominium. So there are two ways that the property can go. So let's say the private property does not appreciate in value as well, so it holds at 1.5M. So assuming at 1.5M you decide to downgrade back to maybe a 3 or 4-room HDB worth about $600,000, that's going to leave you with about 900,000 cash for your retirement plans, versus let's say if the property is going to be able to appreciate up to at least $2 million, and let's say you choose to downgrade, and that's going to leave you with about 1.4 million for your retirement plans. If we just compare to the first way, if we do nothing at all In terms of your retirement funds that's going to be available, this is going to be much higher. Moving on, the third way, this will be a little bit more aggressive. We can sell off our HDB once it hits its MOP, extract that profit gain that we have, and then diversify our portfolio into two other private properties. One can be about 1.5M 3-beta condo. Other one, maybe you can buy into a 2-beta resale condo about 1M, and then you rent that out, get that rental income to help you pay down that mortgage. And of course, for your own stay one, then that's also what we term as using the forced savings method to own your property. Similarly, let's assume that both properties do not increase in value over time. Then we have a total net worth of 2.5M at the end of our retirement stage. Similarly, we downgrade back to a 3 or 4 room HDB worth about 600,000. That's going to leave us with about 1.9 million for our retirement funds, versus if we do nothing, that's only just going to leave us with about 600,000. And of course, there's also another route which right now is still doable, meaning to say that if right from the start you apply your BTO with just one name and one occupier, then this route is possible. Do take note that if let's say you've already bought your HDB under 2 names, then technically if you want to go with a 1 name option, you have to either transfer the name to an occupier, provided you are eligible to meet all the requirements like your CPF refunds and etc. Then that also means that you're going to restart your entire 5-year MOP from the date of transfer as well. So assuming right from the start, if you already planned for this, then perhaps the other expansion model that you can choose to do is to keep your HDB. So one person keeps the HDB and the other person with the name who's free can then go on to purchase a $1.5 million 3-beta condo. And coming back to the end journey again, we are looking about a combined total net worth of about 2.1M, and we downgrade back to a 3 or 4 room HDB worth 600,000. That's going to leave us with about 1.5M in terms of retirement funds. One of the key reasons why BTO owners love to upgrade, especially when they hit their MOP, because usually once your HDB MOPs, that's sort of like a golden goose for you, because of the fact that usually once you MOP and you got it straight from BTO right from the start, your property will have already healthily appreciated to a certain level, and that's going to allow you to extract that cash proceeds without touching your own savings. So that also gives you that first pot of gold to utilize these funds to park into your next home, into a private condo. That also means that you get to use the cash portion of your sales proceeds to port over into your down payment for your private condo without touching any of your own personal savings. So that also means that you get to cash out the trapped equity and reinvest to a private property and upgrade your lifestyle as well. So let's very quickly break down in terms of your monthly installment when it comes to owning a HDB or a private condo. So let's say you own a HDB that's worth about 600,000 and you're going for a bank loan, and we assume both loan rates to be at the same of 3%. So that means for your monthly installment in terms of owning a HDB is just about 2,001 per month. And of course for HDB you can only loan up to a maximum of 25 years. So when we are looking at monthly installment, there are 2 key components that we want to look at. One is your principal. So technically your principal is whatever money that you put in, technically you will get it back the moment you sell off your current home, of course provided it does not depreciate way further down than what you have initially bought in for. And second component will be your interest, but do take note for mortgage loans, they are interest reducing because of the fact that the more that you pay down your monthly installment, that also means that you are paying off more of your loan portion. So that also means that your interest is going to get smaller and smaller over the number of months that you are paying for, while your capital is increasing in amount over time as well. And let's say versus if we were to own a $1.5 million condo with a maximum loan at 75%, for private condo you can take a loan up to 30 years, assuming the very same interest rate of 3%. That means that your monthly installment is going to be about $4,700 per month, and naturally your principal will then also be higher, and of course your interest will also be higher compared to your HDB. So let's assume that you and your partners are both 35 years and under. Maybe both of you are earning about $7,000 each. So that also means that your CPF OA monthly contribution will be about $1,500 odd. And if both of you are going to jointly own the next home or even your HDB, so that means that if we times 2 of this amount, we have about $3,001 just from our CPF OA to finance our monthly installment. And let's say if you're going to own a 600k HDB, that also means that technically you do not need to top up any cash every month just to own the HDB. You're going to be very comfortable because your CPF always is going to take care of the bank loan itself. On the other hand, if you were to own a $1.5 million condo with a monthly installment at about $4,700, and we use that to offset your combined CPF OA contribution, that means that you just need to top up about $1,600 per month in terms of your cash component to own a $1.5 million private condo. So you might also be then wondering, how about I just keep my HDB? I have this excess cash every month that's coming in. I use this savings to go for a fixed deposit instead. That's of course one very possible route as well. So let's just assume instead of paying that 1,600 per month in terms of your cash component just to own a 1.5 million condo, so you have about 2,000 cash per month that you're putting into this particular fund investment. And let's say it has a very nice, healthy interest rate of 4% per annum, and we do that for the next 28 years. So assuming 2K every month for the next 28 years, and you have an initial investment of 2K, that means that in 28 years, we are going to have about 1.2 million worth of capital as well as interest that's coming back to us. Because at year 28, if you take a look, we have already put in about 674K by then, and the amount will have also annualized to about $1.2 million. And if we relate it back to our property journey, assuming at age 36, 37, we keep our HDB and we continue to stay put all the way, and assuming that you do not want to sell the HDB, you are comfortable there, we have this additional about 1.2M that's going to come back into our pockets for our retirement plan. So we're going to end up with about 1.2M. And of course, let's say you plan to downgrade back to maybe a smaller 2 or 3 rooms. So we sell off your 600K property, buy back another HDB that may be worth about 350K. So that gives us the extra 250K. And that is going to bring up your total net asset about 1.45M at about age 65 versus the second route, meaning to say that instead of putting this money into a fixed deposit, we are going to switch to a private property. So what's going to happen? Assuming at age 36, 37, we switch to a private property worth about 1.5M. And for the next 28 years, we also continue to live in this private property. And we sell this private property at the end of our 65 years mark. And we downgrade back to a smaller HDB, maybe worth about 350K. So by the age of 65, let's say if we switch to a condo, we would have about 1.65 million for us to retire the funds with, versus about 1.45M if we choose to keep our HDB and invest about $2,000 per month into our fixed deposit instead. Bearing in mind for the fact that you must be very consistent in making sure that this $2,000 per month is really set aside into investment, and you're not going to be tempted to spend this extra cash. Of course, there is no right, no wrong in terms of which route you prefer. These are really based on your individual preference as well as your level of comfort in terms of financing, your personal goals, or even your own investment portfolio. Alright, so if you take a look at all this data and all these graphs above, we can see the concept of forced savings as well as another component of delayed gratification, because monthly installment is definitely one way of dollar averaging costs as well. Focus mostly on should you sell your HDB or should you keep your HDB sorry.